I feel like there are some barriers there, you know, and there's also a lot of the kind of business as usual mentality. You know, people not really assessing, is this equitable, right? Is this fair? Is it all inclusive? You know, just saying, nah, let's go get that money. And the same people who had access to capital to start businesses before are the ones doing it, you know. So when you go, like when I used to go to the trade shows, or up till today when I go to trade shows, it's probably, you know, 70, 80% white men there, you know, and there should be some more diversity there, right? There should be more diversity. There's billions of dollars being made. How do we get people in? And again, if we're not going and reaching out into the communities and finding that talent, then it's not gonna happen. And you know, at Grid, one thing that they make an effort to do is how they hire, right? And saying, you know, diversity is not just hiring somebody because they're black or because they're brown or because they're a woman, or, you know what I'm saying? It's finding the best talent. But finding the best talent isn't just looking at the resumes that were sent to you. It's being active about going out and seeking that talent, right? So you will have a diverse pool if you're active about how you reach out. And if you're not doing that outreach, then you're not really trying to be diverse in terms of building a company that's diverse, right? And there's a lot of research that's been done that says diverse companies are more successful. Right? You should have a company, especially if you're in a community like Los Angeles, that's more reflective of the community itself. It shouldn't be all white, right? And there's nothing racist about it or, you know, bias or nothing. It's just that these things need to be more diverse. People cannot continue to be locked out of access to high growth industries. And in order to do that, you got to be conscious about it. It can't be business as usual because we know what happened and why certain people have access to capital and others don't. Right? But we have to make conscious efforts in whatever position we are to say, you know what, if I have a company, it's not just the solar installers where I have diversity, but it's at the management levels as well. It's at the executive levels as well. And are you going out and finding the best talent possible to make sure that you have a diverse organization from the top up, you know, the top down and you know, the bottom up, like, and in between, do you have a diverse organization? So there's barriers there, and unless we make a conscious effort to kind of break down those barriers, that won't change.
I mean, there was no doubt in our mind that both from the contractors and from some of the apprenticeship coordinators that there was sometimes conscious and sometimes unconscious bias around African American workers that was much greater than attitudes towards immigrant workers. And it's not, I can't really explain that outside of racism, right? And again, some of it's unconscious, some of it's conscious.
Racism, not so much. If you know your product and you know the technical side of things and can operate in that space, not so much anymore. Sexism is still there. It's subtle, and it's one of those things that you have to address head on. I've been on crews with guys that have made the typical comments because, you know, you're in the boys' space. So having lived through that, it's one of those things that you have to address head on. Every time I heard a comment, I let them know that I heard the comment. I repeated what they said. I let them know how I felt about it and let them know I was not going to stand for it. And you have to be able to stand up for yourself in that space. And I'm not saying that it's easy, and you always think about the repercussions behind speaking up. But if you don't speak up, you've got a couple of things that'll go on. The behavior will continue, and it will get worse. So stand your ground.
Well, unfortunately, I have a similar situations at my previous, and that's the reason why one of the reasons that motivated me to leave, to go into consulting and then eventually end up on a solar company, was because as I continued to move up the ranks, I became the first black person, the youngest person in the company to reach these levels. And I got to a point where I'm at the table with executives, right? And there's me in my early 30s and literally a bunch of, late 40 and 50-year-old white men, and then me. So not only am I too young to be at the table, I'm too black to be at the table, and just too many experiences in that space. Because I never thought I was going to leave. I had a great job, making great money, great benefits, top engineer in the whole company, and it was just taking its toll on my life, literally, to the point to where I think now it's a blessing in disguise because I got to walk away and look what I'm doing now. But so I've had the blackface on my, put up in the office, and bullseye put on my chest in my pictures, and my property defaced, and my parking stall that I had tore. I've had a lot of stuff happen too. So that resonates with me, what you're saying. But I think from dark places like that, if we're able to mentally overcome that and not let that shape us, it just catapults us to greater things. So what they meant for evil, we use it for good. Yeah.
So I'll say 2 jokes, and I think it'll sum everything up. So my personal joke is, I'm the darkest thing in this room, and that includes the coffee table and the black TV. That's normally my first joke when I walk into places like this, because that's literally the case. Me and the wooden table are the 2 darkest things in the room, or chair, or a random dark object. And that's by miles. And then the next one is Paul Mooney. I believe I heard this from Paul Mooney, is that black people can take a wet bag of shit and give it life. So that means anything that we touch, we give soul and life to. So why not we giving life back to the thing that gives us life? I always stand by that black folks are the stewarders, and people, indigenous people, are the stewarders of this earth. So why not are we in these roles to take care of the earth? Because she speaks to us different. She talks to me directly. When I'm upset, I feel it, I give it back to the earth, and she give me back some positivity. Why am I not leading in these departments when it comes to the earth, when that speaks literally to me? So, I mean, those 2 jokes sum it up the best, because that's literally what the problem is. That's the problem, and we are the solution. And that's the disconnect. They're not in the same place.
Well, in the home performance world, like my world now, I'm the only one standing for the home performance. There is another woman, Good Energy Retrofit, my friend Chris, and then there is Green Savers, my friend Robert Hammerly, who has an amazing business as well, and he's very successful. Company like Neil Kelly, I think they also still have their home performance sector of their company, but for what you hear, no, I'm probably the only brown one out there right now doing this type of work. Yeah.
There are relatively few. My boss and colleague, Steve Gelb, works in the solar space, and he can name pretty much the African American solar installers. There are very few energy services companies that are headed by people of color, and those that are major industry players are doing what they can to diversify. They're very much in need of doing so because there's very limited diversity in many of the clean energy disciplines, and there's some reasons for that, and there's some opportunities to improve. The key is the industry must be willing to invest and eager to change its policies, traditions, and procedures to make it possible for new and different people to come into clean energy fields and to prosper there.